Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rachel Zedek, and I'm the director of Peterson, Thailand. And this afternoon, you have all registered to participate in a webinar on organic production and market opportunities. And I am really thrilled to be here to talk about organic. It's one of the biggest and fastest growing areas of agriculture production and investment in Asia. And today, we're going to talk to two really amazing women in agribusiness. And so I'm going to start with a brief introduction to who Peterson is. So our core company, Peterson and Control Union World Group, was founded in 1920 in Holland. We at Peterson have a mission to adopt the design, delivery, and measurement of agriculture and environmental ecosystems. And our vision is to collaborate, and we'll come back to that later in terms of the SDGs, but to collaborate with business, investors, government, foundations, NGOs, communities, farmers, and consumers, prioritizing the Sustainable Development Goals to generate sustainable social, environmental, and economic returns. So we do align all of our programs to SDGs, especially SDG 17, which is about partnerships. And we think that is critical because we can't do everything ourselves. We must collaborate. This is not just about what me or what we want on one side of the equation or what you are working on over here. This is really about us equations, and you can't create an us if you're doing it by yourself. We have 4 technical platforms at Peterson. We focus heavily on sustainable rice, sustainable forestry, agroforestry, bioeconomy, aquaculture production, and SME food safety. So organic falls for us in terms of program development, in terms of SME food safety. Organic for many, many consumers, especially in Europe, is still and also now growing in Asia. Organic is also perceived as a safe food product. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about perceptions and realities. So our priorities at Peterson, we are very committed to values-based decision-making. We are still a family-owned company, and we think that values need to be at the center of what we do. Transparency. Transparency means risk and responsibility. And by owning that and being willing to engage transparently, that means you're actually engaging with risk and responsibility. Financial inclusion, access to more and competitive equitable finance for farmers especially, and new job and business opportunities for agri-communities. And obviously we have a very big focus here at Peterson on women in agribusiness. And innovation, accessing new inputs, reducing overheads for different actors in the supply chain, increased efficiencies, increased safe food, access to safe food, and reducing the carbon footprints of all of our food products, because we all have a responsibility in climate action, which is also an SDG. So now we're going to talk about our experts, because I am so excited for these ladies to be here today with us, and one of them is actually in our office. We're going to start this morning with Delini Pereira, who is the MD of Control Union Philippines, which is one of our sister brands in Peterson and Control Union World Group, and they are a certification body. Delini Pereira has been an EU, an organic certifier for EU, USDA, and JAS programs. So this lady really knows what it takes to be credibly, transparently organic, and she's going to give us some of those really amazing technical insights today. And then I'm going to move over to Didirat or Sui, and she's the general manager of Tongkon Company, which is an organic coconut oil company. She's been amazing in the office. She's brought us some products to play with. So this is the big one, and she's going to talk about her journey in building an organic factory and bringing an organic product to market. And I think it's a unique insight into really the risks and rewards of being organic in Asia. So Delini, I'm going to hand this over to you if you're ready to start.
Yes, thank you, Rachel. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, I think.
Yep.
I have only a very limited amount of time, so I might rush through a little bit through the presentation, but if you have any questions, we can always discuss and clarify everything at the end of this session. So we know when it comes to, when we hear the term organic, the first thing which will come to our mind is free from pesticides and synthetic chemicals. So, but if you think about organic certification, the composition of the final product is not the only thing which determines whether the product is organic or not. So different countries, different regions have their own definition as to how they will recognize a product as organic or not. Especially if you look at the main markets like the Europe, US, Japan, they have their own organic standards, and they are not just standards, they are those standards are their national laws as well. If we look at why organic is different, can we switch to the next slide, please? So if we look at how organic is different or special, like I said, just by analyzing the final product for the presence of certain pesticide residues, we cannot confirm whether the product is organic or not. The organic certification it's actually a system-based approach. It is process-based. So if we say a product is organic, then it has to be produced, processed, handled, labeled in such a way that it complies with all the requirements given in a specific standard. So you have to look at what are the inputs you are using, whether they are allowed according to the standards, and what are the planting material that you are using, and how are you making sure you separate your organic products with your non-organic or conventional products, and most importantly, the documentation, or how you maintain traceability throughout the value chain from the point of production to the dispatch of your final processed goods. So, like I said, there are many standards. Some are local laws or like national regulations, which are mainly focusing on food and agricultural products. The main standards are for Europe, which is the first logo that we see, that is for the European Organic. And for US, we have USDA National Organic Program, which we call NOP. And for JAS, we have Japanese agricultural standards for production as processing as well. Same thing for Korea, we have for production as well as processing. And now the newest emerging organic market, which is China, currently they are accepting organic products certified under other standards as well. But now there are more and more importers from China who are demanding specific Chinese organic certified products. So now Chinese organic is becoming prominent in the world organic market. If you think about non-food products, there are certain organic standards focusing on these non-food products as well, like relevant for textile and global organic latex standard, which is focusing on organic latex. But for both these standards, let's say for textile, it's more or less the raw material is cotton. But then cotton has to be certified under one of the previous organic standards. Same thing for organic latex. The rubber plantations have to be certified under either European Organic or USDA NOP organic standard. Next slide, please. So previously, I was talking about national regulations. In addition to national regulations, there are certain private standards as well. These are not local laws, but these are standards introduced by private entities. But these still play some sort of a major role when you are exporting products, especially to Germany Switzerland, and Sweden. If you look at this biospace is specific to Switzerland. Even though this is a private standard, there are importers who demand for biospace certified products, which focuses, in addition to the requirements of the European organic, which focuses additionally on the biodiversity, on the how do you call the labor aspects of organic certification. If you look at Demeter and Naturland, these are more or less specific to when you're exporting to Germany. These all Demeter is more focused on biodynamic farming, and Naturland, this also speaks more about the labor issues as well as environment and biodiversity issues. Kraft, it's for Sweden. This is specific for Sweden. This is still a private standard, but Kraft also more focus is given for labor issues. And other than these private standards, there are some other standards introduced by, let's say, private entities like certification bodies for certain inputs, which are still based on the main organic standards. Next one, please. So if we look at the main three standards, even though more or less the principles are same for either European organic or USDA organic or Japanese organic, there are slight differences between these three standards. Under European organic standard, you can certify any processed or unprocessed agricultural or livestock product, and you can even certify processed feed, vegetative propagating material, or seed for cultivation. But you cannot certify hunting or wild fishing or any wild animals. And any sort of mass catering operations you cannot certify under European organic. If you look at jazz, it's stricter than European organic. Under jazz, you can certify only food and beverages which are intended for human consumption. No feed, no planting material, no vegetative propagating material, no cotton, no flowers, not even honey. And the principle for jazz certification is, especially when it comes to production, you have to use original soils for production. That is why they are not allowing cultivation of mushrooms on bed logs or mushroom beds. But if you try to certify mushrooms grown on natural soils, that is allowed. And compared to European organic and Japanese organic, USDA NOP standard is the most flexible thing. If you are an operation handling any sort of product, you can get your products certified under USDA NOP. The main difference between these three standards is a principle we call the conversion period. For a field or a production unit to be considered as organic, especially if they are transferring from a conventional farming to organic farming practice system, there is a period called a conversion period, which you have to complete before you can claim your harvest or the product coming from that field as organic. For USDA, that conversion period is 3 years, whether it's a perennial crop or an annual crop. But for European organic and Japanese organic, if it's an annual crop, the conversion period is 2 years before sowing, and for perennials, it is 3 years. I will just very roughly explain the product categories. If the specialty is for USDA NOP, the USDA standard, NOP standard defines three main categories as 100% organic, and made with organic. So depending on the composition of your final product, depending on the percentage of agricultural ingredients present in your final product, according to NOP, you can label your product either as 100% organic, or made with organic. But when it comes to European organic and Japanese organic, they don't have these three categories. They just have one category. And the principle is, in the final product, if the organic agricultural ingredients are more than 95%, then you can label your product as organic. And for European organic, they have given certain food additives and processing aids which you can use in your organic product. Same thing for JAS, and same thing for USDA NOP, that is called the national list. So if you refer to these paragraphs in the standard national list, you can find out what are the allowed substances that you can add to your final organic product and still label your product as organic. So in addition to cultivation or farming, the organic standards also allow for you to certify products which are naturally collected, or what we call wild collection. The principle is, if you are going to certify wild collected products, then there has to be substantial evidences to show that the activities or the collection activities in these areas will not create any imbalance or will cause any harm to the natural ecosystem of that area. Next slide, please. So if you are going to claim your product as certified organic product, then it has to be produced, processed, handled, and labeled in compliance with the specific organic standard, and it has to be certified by an accredited certification body. And if you are claiming your product to be certified, then there has to be some sort of evidences to back your claim. And for organic products, the main evidence is a certificate which is being issued by the certification body called the scope certificate. This scope certificate mentions all the products which are certified as organic. So it's very important from the starting point to the end point, the traceability or the integrity of the organic produce, organic raw materials, and the organic final products are maintained. The organic integrity has to be maintained throughout the value chain. And if you are transferring a raw material or a semi-processed good from one step to another, then it has to be made sure that the proper traceability is also maintained. For an example, if let's say you are a processor or a manufacturer, you don't have certified farms under your processing or manufacturing project, but you do know a processor who is already certified for organic production, and they can give you organic raw materials or even a semi-processed organic produce. So you as a processor, you can purchase raw materials or certified semi-processed products from the producer. And whenever they are selling their organic produce to the processor, proper traceability or the documentation should be maintained so that you can show that the raw materials or the semi-processed goods that you have purchased from the producer is indeed organic. It could be done either through documentary evidence like the labels, let's say the reception documents or the gate passes, but more importantly, if somebody is selling an organic product to an outside party, that product lot can be accompanied by a declaration called a transaction certificate. A transaction certificate will list down what are the products sold by this producer, to who that producer has sold the products to, and what are the volumes, what are the identification codes, and everything is mentioned in this transaction certificate. So same thing. So if the processor process the final product in their factory and they are selling it to an importer or a distributor, let's say an importer in Germany, and the processor is in Thailand, and they are exporting this product to Germany. In that case, again, they have to make sure they maintain the proper traceability from their location to the importer. This transaction also should be accompanied by another transaction certificate. But this is for share, or let's say the flow of goods from one step to another. In addition to this, at each and every step, you also have to maintain your own records as well. For a producer, as a producer, you have to maintain all your input records, all your activities you have done in your farm in terms of soil fertility management, pest and disease control, harvesting, and selling your product. And same thing at the manufacturer's level or the processor's level. When you are purchasing raw materials from an outside party, then you have to have the proper documentation from the point of reception, storage, then the entire production line, and dispatch. So how do you apply for certification, either for your farm or your processing unit? The first step is you have to get the proper information and you have to make correct decisions when it comes to which standard to apply for, which certification body should I choose. So these two decisions basically depend on your end market. If you want to export to Europe, then you have to make sure you select a certification body who is accredited to offer that European organic or that specific certification program. Otherwise, your certificate or the goods, when you export it to a European country, will not be accepted because your certifier is not properly recognized or authorized to issue that certification program. And so once you get the proper information, you will apply with an application form to the certification body of your choice. And once you do that, usually the certification body will review your application, they will do a risk analysis, and they will come up with a quotation, or what we usually refer to as an offer. Once the offer is accepted and signed by the applicant, that naturally becomes the contract between the certification body and the certified party. Once the contract is in place, the certification body will issue an invoice, and once the payment is settled, or let's say the both parties agreed on a payment terms, the planning of the audit will take place, and there will be first a documentation review, off-site audit on documentation before we do the on-site audit, then the on-site audit, then audit reporting, and if everything is in order, during a given period of time, the certificates will be issued. But there could be instances where everything is not 100% in order. There could be problems, or if I use the technical term, which we call non-conformities. There could be, during the on-site audit, the auditor will observe some requirements not being met at the production or the processing unit. These are called non-conformities. So if there are non-conformities, then the operator will be given a certain period of time to correct those non-conformities and to share evidences on how they have addressed that issue and how they have taken measures to ensure that it will not happen again. When that information is sufficiently submitted to the certification body, if it's acceptable, then the certificates or the certification will be complete. So this is a cyclic process. Usually for organic certification, the cycle is for 1 year or 12 months. The audit, the renewal audit, has to be completed annually. So why would you want to apply for certification, or why do you have to get your product certified as organic? Actually, there are two main advantages. One is access to specific markets. If you want to sell or export a product labeled as organic to any of the 28 European countries, or to US or Canada or Japan or Korea, organic certification under that specific regulation is mandatory. You cannot export to these countries without organic certification. And the second best advantage is, if you are already in the market, if you already have tapped the market, then you have opportunities in expanding your existing market in terms of sales volumes. And third one, obviously, you will get a premium price compared to non-certified or conventional products. And when you have certification, this is also an assurance to your final consumer or your buyers that you are in compliance to a given set of requirements or a specific system. You can always tell someone that yes, you are following all these requirements. Yes, you are following organic practices. Yes, my product is organic. But how do you prove your product is organic? That is through third-party certification.
So Danini, that was very technical, because I know that's what your strength is. I did not know there was the China standard, so very interesting to hear that. Is it got a lot of demand yet, the China standard for organic?
Here in the Philippines, actually, we have for the past 12 months, I would say, we have had inquiries from about 4 to 5 of our existing clients already on certification for China organic.
It's interesting, just because we obviously know, we're based here in Thailand, that we hear a lot of feedback about China's supply chains, and there's a fear of Chinese food products, especially rice, after some recent scandals with bags of plastic rice. So very interesting to hear that even China's marketplace is responding to the need for its local consumers. Yes. China, for those who don't know, is the largest demand of organic production in the world in terms of mass volume, followed by India, and then followed by Germany and the United States. I'm curious though, because we talked about conversion and documentation. So that's what I heard the most, is challenges, technical challenges that we see from a technical business perspective perspective, is that companies don't realize that to become organic isn't just to change the way you produce it, but that you have to convert the land that you're using as well, which is a 3-year model for the EU, USDA, and JAS.
Yes, correct.
So do you think that that's a challenge in the Philippines?
In challenge, not so much. I think if we take the Asian region, most of our lands are still in a more natural state. Okay. They have not been commercialized in a way the lands are commercialized in the West or in Europe. So the operators in Asia, actually they still have this opportunity in certifying their lands as organic, because most of the lands, they are by default organic. So most operators, they don't have to wait until to complete the 3-year conversion plan, because these lands have not been applied of any chemicals to begin with. But the misconception is, most people think that organic farming is zero input farming. That is wrong.
That is wrong. Yes. You can have inputs and you can have organic inputs into your production as well.
Yes.
Certified organic.
You have to make sure that you maintain and manage the soil, the fertility of your land, the soil fertility of your land through cultural methods. That is the first priority. But in any case, the cultural methods are not sufficient, then each standard have allowed certain substances which you can add to your soil to enhance the fertility. But these have to be added in a way that they will not pollute natural water resources, and you have to have sufficient evidences to show why you need to add these substances to your soil.
And I think, speaking about evidence, I think that's the important point. And, you know, to make it maybe a little bit more simple, evidence, of course, is documentation, not always, but of some kind, of how you are growing your product, producing your product. If it's wild organic, then you have labor, and you need to make sure that you're imposing ethical labor standards and payments. So I think that that has been the challenge I've seen with some of my clients, or companies that we're collaborating with, which is that there's that almost a shock factor that, oh, I'm going to have to document this. And so can you just speak a little bit in terms of what is the type of investment and time and capacity that a company needs to be prepared to have to support the documentation, the evidence that they will need to prove that they are organic?
Well, it's like this. In the farm level, you don't have to have very fancy way of recording or maintaining documents.
Okay.
The simplest form of information will be sufficient. Let's say you are adding, let's say you purchase some organic planting material from a supplier. Then all you need to do is to maintain the evidences to show that you have purchased it from an organic source. And yes, if you have applied any organic inputs or even, let's say, substances allowed by the standards, then you have to just record it when you applied, how much, to which area. That's all.
Right. So the point is, we don't want businesses to be scared of documentation, but if they understand what is expected from them, it is a system. So it's not like things are gonna, there's no boogeyman in an organic system. The expectations are quite clear of what a company needs to provide. And so it doesn't have to be rocket science.
No, not really. And even when it comes to the harvesting, all you have to record is when and how much you have harvested from that given area of land.
Cool. So I am thinking going to transition over to Sui now, because that was this super awesome technical discussion. And I think that that's really important to have, because organic is not just a word, it is a system of production that, once again,
it's a way of life
and needs to have records. So I want to thank you, and we're going to move over to Sui, and then we're going to come back to both of you to wrap up with you. Yep. But I want to give Sui a chance, or Kuntidarat, to talk about her journey in organic.
Okay, so okay, this doesn't work. Hello, everyone. Okay, so my name is Thidarat Utchachon, or you can call me Sui. Okay, like before I come to do business, I used to be international auditor before, like for 4 years, and now I produce a coconut oil that's organic, certified organic, UNOP and JAS. And actually, for the organic market in Thailand is grow up every year since I am auditor, and then I see the market go up. So I decided to make product as organic. And why is organic? Because of, first of all, when the consumer said that it's certified organic, it's like somebody or a third party to come to ensure or certify that your product is safe. And is it work for? Okay. And as I said, why people purchase the organic product? First of all, everyone knows that it's organic. It will come like very natural without using any chemical, no? So it will be safe and high quality. And the second one is consumer belief are promoted by organic food industry and like increase demand of organic food. And branding organic is like to ensure that your product is safe. Oh yeah, to have the label. Like for this one, you know, like for organic, it's not just only certified at the farm, but processing as well. Like or supply chain have to be certified, so you can like make sure that. Yeah, so client will look like more tip on your product if you have like the label. And moreover, it still increase like the market demand on like the organic product, and also supports artisanal brand like the handmade product from organic, no? And also impact investment, for example, social enterprise. So everyone know that like organic. So if you have like the certified or the organic, you can enter the premium market. See, in USA, like for spending, they are spending very the big amount on market, like 33 billion on organic. Yeah, 43.
So Sui, if you had your choice, what is your target number one market that you wish you could export all of your product to?
For my target, right? First of all, is yes, for sure the USA and European country, because of its quite big market, and then they have they have how can I say, they have like money to buy, because of for the price of organic and non-organic. Organic is more expensive.
So between the US and Europe, can you narrow it down for me? What would be your number one choice? Would it be Germany?
No, I think will be USA, because of since like a lot of paper and research in USA, like they consume more for organic coconut oil.
And so your product, and I'm holding the smaller bottle right now, but this is a retail product. So you're also looking for retail outlets.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay. And so what are the challenges then for you? I don't want to diverse too much, but just if you're coming to the American market and we look at US organic sales, it would be great if you speak about this to share with you that even though it's a great target, what will be the challenges for you?
Yeah, actually last year when I went to the state, it's very easy to find organic product. They consume like organic, like very normal life, like daily life. Like it's very different from Thailand. In Thailand, you can like find the organics only in premium market, like for example, Paragon, like Lemon Farm. But for example, in states, you can find like everywhere, even on like the street market. European as well. Like last time when I went to Germany, you can find like the certified fruit on the street, but not the street food. Yeah, it's like the market that they sell. Like for example, that last time I go, I saw like strawberry with certified organic. Yeah, it's very surprised me. And my friend also, she studied in Australia, and that's one also like very normal to like eat organic
Very cool.
product. Yeah, and
Do you
nowadays,
see that potential in Asia for organic to also become normal?
I think yes, but like they have to be take time because because like maybe salary of like not high like in European countries. Like for example, if I got like 300 baht per day, I cannot like afford the premium product.
But I will share this with you to understand the reason that organic market has now grown in the US. It used to be led by German. But what's really interesting in the US is that organic production is the only growth sector that we have seen for American farmers in 60 years. Even farmers in America are benefiting from an organic movement. So I'm gonna let you go back to your slides, but I wanted to interrupt you a little bit for some insight on your business strategy.
Okay. Like this slide will show you that like the growth of organic sales in US between 2006 to 2015. You can see that it's increased every year. Like for example, in 2006, you see the sale just only like 10 billion, like maybe 15. And you can see on 2015, you see it's increased like double. Yeah, for food and non-food. Like in 2015, it's about like 30 something billion. It's a lot, yeah. And in European country for retail product, wow, in European country they spend like 29.8 billion euro on organic. Yeah, it's quite a lot. And every year they will have like the biggest event for BNO5 in Germany. That's one quite big. Okay. And don't forget in Asia, see, actually for China, it's like very big market. Like for example, like every producer would like to go that market because of it's quite big. But many people say that in market we call late war because of it's quite big. Many people would like to go there, and you can see the dark blue will be organic vegetable, and for the light blue will be organic fruit. But they consume a lot of like the organic product. China as well, India, USA. Okay. And for the Southern Asian food, 25 for consume in India. Wow, they're willing to pay for organic. Actually, India, if I am not, is the biggest market, right, in Asia for India.
China is still the biggest market because of the volume in size, but I think that we do have more specialty crops and orchard crops. So when Delini was talking, for example, about wild organic, we're seeing a growing demand for things like almonds and walnuts that are even more culturally part of their diets. But I'm really interested to see, I think that a lot of the demand we're seeing growing in India and China is as a response to food safety problems. And so while organic, we still see 16% of products imported to the EU have trace pesticides. So I think that there's still, a long road ahead to ensure that organic means everything that it promises. But I think the Asian perception of organic is much more about food safety and less about chemicals, which is much more of a European perception. But I don't know how you think about this, Tirat. I think that following some very serious food safety scandals in India, Vietnam, China, and it's both Southeast Asia and into China, we're seeing a huge demand now for better, safer food, and that is perceived as organic.
Okay, so it's about 18% of consume in Southeast Asia are willing to pay for the organic product.
And just to share that with you, but by 2025, Asia will control 49% of the global GDP, and it will have the largest middle income in the world. So more than 150 billion consumers. So I think that what's interesting for us is to see Asia as a marketplace. So while Europe and North America are now markets, they have buyers, they want to spend money, they want organic produce and processed foods. I think that what we're going to see over the next 5 to 10 years is a complete transformation as well in Asia.
Yeah, but actually, I think like for say China market, like they produce a lot of organic, but still not enough for themselves.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And America is one of its largest suppliers of organic food.
Yeah.
This is, I think that the potential for us in Southeast Asia to supply our northern, regions is a huge potential for all of us in business. And I would rather ship something to China than all the way to America or Europe in terms of carbon footprint. So Tina, I want you to share a little bit more because we've seen your products. Obviously there are lots of, can you talk a little bit about the competition that you face and why did you choose organic as a strategy for your products?
Yeah, I think now like the buyer or like the consumer, they're focusing on like healthy because of now, I think organic is not just a trend, but it's something like sustainable. It's good for like their body or their health. So I think something about healthy or something about body will be like growing every year.
Okay. Can you talk us through a little bit maybe of the challenges that you have faced? Because Thalini gave us a great introduction and I'm going to go back to her in a few minutes on the production side. And Thalini, you should chime in here because we want to talk about production.
Sure.
And both from those challenges, right? But the investment. So as an entrepreneur, you invested into organic. So can you, talk about what you think? Now, obviously you have some organic expertise, so you had an unfair advantage compared to many of our clients. But can you share your journey in choosing to be an organic product and maybe some of the challenges that you will face now, either from a business or a production perspective?
Me, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I call you by your Thai name. So sweet.
So like you mean like what is like the advantage of organic that I have, right?
I think there is an advantage, but I also want you to feel free to talk about the risk and the reward of going organic. You built a new facility, that's an investment. So to be organic compliant in processing, was the investment worth it? That's one question I really do have. Was the investment worth being organic?
Okay. I think now like Thailand that I used to produce an organic product. The government now they have many projects to support the startup or SME like for like organic. They have many things to support. Like for example, when I go to join the booth, they support for like
marketing.
Yeah. The marketing, like sometimes 50%, sometimes 100% for the booth. And also they support for consultants for organic, for GMP, something like that. So, and they promote a lot the product about healthy. Yeah. And so I think for this one, as I told you before, the product if like have something to currently, like for example, this one organic.
Is it?
Actually, I think it's profitable because of right now. I think for the raw material in Thailand, organic and non-organic is not big difference.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think still profitable.
Okay, and so your strategy is to be 100% organic.
Yeah, actually now my like my companies we have like actually we do like 100%. That is my target. Everything in my company is organic. We have coconut chip as organic,
Great.
coconut oil organic. Yeah. So we not just really support like the farmers, but once we shoot the packaging or everything to my product, for example, we use like we not use plastic. We like have the target, so we have to be like friendly green company. Like for example, this one we use the recycle packaging, and this one also recycle also like to look more organic. This one made from the real wood.
So I'm going to switch to a question we've had come in from Iwan in, I believe, in Indonesia. And this one I'm going to address to you, Talini.
Yes.
So how much, because this is a great question and it seems super straightforward. I get this all the time from clients. How much is this going to cost me?
Well, I do get this question all the time also. Well, it's very difficult to give a ballpark figure for certification.
Yes.
It depends on the activity, right?
Exactly. It depends on whether you are applying for farms or whether you are applying only for your processing units, or
Right.
you are applying for a combination of these things. And if you are applying for farm certification, then whether it's individual farms or whether it's group certification, then how many farmers do you have? What are the extents of the lands? What are the locations? Are those areas safe to travel? And what are the means of traveling? And if you take the processing side, then what are your processing activities? What are the locations? How big is your facility? So everything you have to take into account. And you also have to make sure from the farm to the processing unit, what is the actual channel of the product transitioning from the farm to the processing? Are there any other intermediate steps involved? Because
there are some core fees like the registration fees, but the rest of it, the entire thing is dependent on the scope of production.
Exactly.
And how do we determine the scope, Laini?
With all the the items which I just explained, when we give a quotation to the client, because especially if you look at the European organic standard, there are, especially if you are certifying a farmer group, there are a minimum number of farmers from the entire farmer group that you have to audit in order for the entire group to be qualified. So you have to have your own internal control system, and the external auditors, that is the certification body, will have to come there, and we have to select a sample of farmers from that given group, and we have to audit them. So based on the number of farmers, the risk factors involved, and the location, we determine how much of time we have to allocate to complete the document review, the on-site audits, and certification, everything.
So this whole process starts with that application, and the client who tells us what they believe their scope is, they provide supporting documentation, and then you are able to give them an offer based off that scope.
Yes, but initially we are not requesting them for any supported documents or any confidential information. The only thing we request with the application is the duly filled application form. And if they have farmers, more than one farmer to be certified, then the list of farmers, the locations, whether they have blocks, and what are the crops that they are cultivating, what are the extents. Those are the information we ask for at the very beginning.
So once again, organic is a system, and the process by which CU or your team would go to audit is based off that system. It's a design. So it's not, we don't pull it out of thin air, but the one place that a client may have a little negotiation power with you is on the daily rates. Is that fair to say?
Yes, the daily rates of course differ from even within one certification body. if you look at different offices, they have different daily rates depending on the markets and depending on the competitiveness and the economical rates which are economical for that country.
So I'm curious because you do work with organic coconut producers. Is that correct in
Yes.
the Philippines?
Yes.
And so where are they looking for their markets? And I want to align this to what Sui is talking about, that right now, obviously, the main focus is still the US and Europe in terms of volume and in terms of the willingness to pay a premium price.
Yes,
But
correct.
your clients, where do you see their vision taking their business in the future in the Philippines?
Still majority of sales volumes are concentrated in Europe and US.
Okay. And what do you think about the Asian market? How do you see that maturing?
Asian market, I think now with China entering into the picture, I think the other countries will have a little bit of opportunity in expanding their markets within Asia. And this is same for Korea. We see increasing demand for virgin coconut oil in Korea.
Interesting. Okay. And that's obviously like Japan and it's a northern target.
Yes, and even in Japan, we see still the demand for virgin coconut oil in Korea and Japan.
Yep, because of my friend said that in Korea they don't have like coconut trees, so they cannot.
Because it's cold up there.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, actually, I got the question, but it's very funny, like for organic farming.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, some farm they buy the frog, and then let them go to the farm to control the insect. This is comply with organic activity. Like they use the frog to control the insect in the farm.
What are they using? Frog?
The frog, yeah.
As in like the smoking thing.
Now we're talking about smoking frogs. I'm completely off track.
No. Like the frog, like the animal to kill the animal. Frog.
Frogs.
Yeah, frog.
That is perfectly all right. Because that is still considered as, just cultural methods. You are using predators to control natural. You are using natural enemies.
Oh, okay. But
so, Talini, would that be permaculture?
I think permaculture is more or less a holistic system, right? Yeah. Where you build up more or less an ecosystem. But for permaculture, of course, you can still apply organic principles. Yes. But permaculture alone yes, you can still consider and have the activities in accordance or in line with organic principles. But it will not mean that you can sell your products as organic unless you have certification.
She's always a certifier, Sui. She's like, let me be clear about the rules. So ladies, what I want to wrap up with is what my takeaways today is that organic doesn't have to be scary. It's a system. You can learn the system. It's, old dogs can always learn new tricks. And that organic, if that is the model of production that you wish to pursue, that the goal of it is that you are following an organic system. You could use permaculture, for example, as a driver in your agronomic models. Just to come back to Irwan's question in the chat room.
Yeah.
But the main goal is that you are documenting, you have evidence to prove that your primary production, your supply chain, depending on what model what product you are producing, whether it's primary production like a lettuce or a fruit, or are you processing organic coconut oil like Sui is? And that isn't scary. Here in Thailand, obviously Sui has been supported. The government has some amazing programs supporting SMEs, which is very exciting to hear. And we hope to see more of those in the Mekong, especially Vietnam and Cambodia, popping up to help support organic exporters, and that we shouldn't be scared of organic systems. and that the investment, there are great markets, both within Asia that are emerging, but better and very well established markets in North America and Europe. So in general, organic is an opportunity, and we want to encourage more businesses to take the risk and the reward of implementing organic. So I want to thank my speakers today, and that we will have another webinar in 2 days, which is on women in agroforestry. So we look forward to seeing more people then. And you can always write us with more questions.
Rachel, excuse me if I disturb you for a second. Under Q&A, I see 2 questions posted by PRT. And I think we should answer those questions before.
So go ahead and answer. I don't see them, but go ahead, please.
One is, if organic farming does not use chemical substances and fertilizers, the production cost should be cheaper. Why the price of the organic products are more expensive? That is actually, one is the value addition, because even though the inputs, the cost of inputs will go down, again, you are aligning yourself with a more sustainable model. So the market thinks that you should be rewarded for that. So that's why you can demand a higher price for your sustainable product. That is one. And the other one is, of course, the producers will add the certification cost also to the produce. But if you really look at the certification cost per unit of production, the certification cost per unit is actually very minimal. But usually people tend to think just because organic certification is very expensive, but it is, yes, because it seems like that because it's a one-time payment and it's a very big amount. But if you really look at, but the certification is valid for 12 months. But if you really look at the volumes that you are going to sell as organic within that given 12 months, and if you calculate the certification fee per unit, then it's actually not that big or scary. I see another question. Organic farming does not prohibit mechanic uses, doesn't it? Yes, it does not prohibit. The principle is, if you are using any machineries on your field, then you have to make sure, especially if you are using those same machineries in a conventional farm, then you have to make sure your organic lands do not get contaminated through these machineries that you use. That is the only limitation you will have. But other than that, mechanic is not prohibited for organic.
Cool.
Yeah, can I add more answer for why it's more expensive? I think it's many things limited because of, for example, if I have to control the grass in the farm, I cannot use any pesticide or no, I mean like the chemical. So I have to ask the farmer to like the weed manure. So everything have to done like without chemical. First of all, it takes time. If I use like chemical, maybe just half a day or maybe 2 or 3 hours. If I use the weed manure, it takes time. And in for fertilizer, if I cannot use like the chemical fertilizer, I have to compost by myself. So it takes time. That's why it's more expensive. Everything have to do like more care to environment, to the farmer. That's why it's like add value to the product. It's like back to the basic. In the past, we also can produce this one, and now they have like many things to reduce the time. Yeah, that's why I think organic is take time. So
and I would love to have a follow-up discussion on this, because it is true. Organic isn't necessarily sustainable. That's a whole different conversation that I think we could have in terms of climate action and SDGs, which is that organic right now is perceived as a food safety strategy and not necessarily as environmental sustainability, which ties into mechanization and efficiency of our land and water use. So probably a whole nother webinar that we need to plan with you ladies is to talk about the sustainability of, impacts of how you're aligning your business to eat, or how Talini we can advise our clients to both be organic but also sustainable.
Yes, of course.
So ladies, we're really gonna wrap up now because we're at 5 minutes past, and I wanna thank you again for making this amazing contribution today to helping educate on organic and to inspire a next generation of organic entrepreneurs. Thank you again.
Okay, thank you again.
Thank you again for inviting me.
Bye, Talini. Bye, Sui.
Bye.
I'll see you here in the
Thank
office.
you everyone for attending.
Okay, thank you.